Several military incursions into Nigeria's politics altered the country's governance process and centralized the powers of the state. At the return of democracy in 1999, the clamor for restructuring led to national conferences with recommendations for the country to revert to true federalism. Following trends of recent years and more calls for restructuring, the ruling All Progressives Congress APC set up a committee to look into the matter. On Nigeria Today, we will be examining the recommendations of this committee and the impacts on the polity. I am Shegun Ojeladi. With me in the studio to discuss the issue is a former governor of Edo State and a one-time senator of the Federal Republic. He's also a member of the All Progressives Congress APC Committee on True Federalism. Professor Osaremi Osumbo, I welcome you to the program.
Thank you very much. Good evening.
I also have in the studio a political affairs analyst and an expert in international relations. He is also a lecturer at the Nasarawa State University, Dr. Philip Aje. Doctor, I welcome you to the program.
Thank you very much.
I think I'll start with you, Dr. Professor Osaremi Osumbo. Now, let's look at the underlying reasons or what is behind the recommendations of the committee. What are those underlying principles? What are those things that give rise to it? If we can have the minds of members and the work they have done.
Thank you. Let me start by saying that the All Progressives Congress, my party, in the manifesto that was used for the last elections, 2015 general elections, as well as the constitution of the party and other documents, recognized the agitations for true federalism and made a commitment to ensure true federalism. The manifesto also made a commitment to restructure governance in Nigeria and ensure good governance. And it talked about community policing. The manifesto talked about the need to devolve powers from the federal to the states, and so forth and so on. All these are contained in the manifesto of the party and the party constitution. Now, sometime last year, the national chairman of our party, His Excellency Chief DJ Oyegun, and the National Working Committee decided to set up this committee with terms of reference which included looking at all these documents, the party constitution, the party manifesto, and other documents to distill these issues about true federalism, devolution of powers as contained in those documents. And then to look at previous conferences, previous reports that have been produced, as well as consult widely with Nigerians as to what they really mean by these issues, whether they refer to them as true federalism, restructuring, devolution of powers. What do Nigerians really want? Because the party in its manifesto also committed itself to be a listening party, a party that consults with the people. So in line with those, the committee was constituted with a view to distilling all this, make a recommendation to the party as to how this can be actualized, including mechanisms for bringing about the realization of the party commitments in its manifesto.
So it was the party commitment?
Oh yes, the party has been committed to these ideas from the word go, from the very formation of the party. So what...
Does it mean the party believes in true federalism?
Of course. Okay. As I said, if you look at the party manifesto, it's there.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, Dr. Aji, how far-reaching do you see these recommendations? Many were surprised about some of those things recommended. Oh, I'm coming to you on that, but many were surprised about some of the recommendations we read coming from a political party and one that is even in power. Were you surprised?
Yeah, well, no, I think the party has done very well because I submitted a memo on this issue to the party too. Okay. And when the party's report came out yesterday, some of us were pleasantly surprised that for the very first time, probably this country is moving forward in a very positive direction. You see, the whole idea about restructuring, as far as it is concerned, is just issue of rearranging the structure of this country in such a way that we will be achieving better development. You see, but we discovered that some people don't know essentially what the restructuring is all about. They thought it's the issue of balkanization. But that's not the meaning. Restructuring is not about dividing this country or balkanizing the country. In fact, it is supposed to prevent balkanization. So essentially what the party has done, frankly speaking, is to save a very serious situation, which this country would have gone through in the next few moments. You see, because the issue at hand, whether we like it or not, the country has reached a critical stage in its development for us to face certain salient aspects of our country.
I will come to you because, like I said, because of our time, we need to move very fast. Okay. Now, it's not that Nigerians are hearing some of these recommendations for the first time. There have been calls for it from various quarters. We've had conferences that touched on some of these things. People will tell you that some of these recommendations are already warming up the desks on some government officials' tables for a very long time. But what surprises many is that it is coming from the APC, it is coming from a ruling party at this material time. I still want to ask you, what is in the mind of the party? Do you think that it is possible to create state, for instance, I mean, with the constitutional provisions? What is behind, what is in the mind of the party? Can the party carry some of these recommendations? Can it carry it through?
Well, my answer will be in two stages. First is to recognize that for the first time, a political party, particularly the ruling party, has taken up the gauntlet to address these burning issues. As you said, issues that have been with us for a very long time. And I think APC needs to be commended because no party, no other political party has taken up this responsibility of ensuring that Nigeria moves forward, develops, that all these issues that tend to divide us are faced frontally and resolved for the overall benefit of our country, Nigeria. That is what APC has done. And it is for Nigerians to build their country. No other person will do it for us. That is why we listen to Nigerians. My friend here, as he said, submitted memorandum. We got memoranda views from so many people as to how they want these issues to be addressed. Yes. So the second aspect of your question is, what are the mechanisms to addressing this? How possible is it to implement some of the recommendations? And what were accepted, what views were accepted, and what are those that were not accepted? talking about the issue of creation of states, for instance, listening to Nigerians, because we held consultations in all the geopolitical zones, including Abuja here, there is only about 30-something% of Nigerians want more states created, which does not come as a surprise, because the existing 36 states are finding it difficult to pay the wage bills of workers, the recurrent expenditure. And if you create additional states, you simply multiply the recurrent expenditure to service the bureaucracy of the new states. And that will even impact negatively on the finances of existing states. So many people don't think that creation of states will solve our problems. But there are others like merger of states.
Yes.
You know, people are talking, they want to convert into regions, they want to be able to have groupings of states come together, and there's provision for merger of states.
Yes.
If states, 2 or more states, feel that they will be stronger by coming together, by process of referendum, the people can decide for themselves. And then there are mechanisms with drafted bills. It's not just previous conferences, previous reports have simply made recommendations without going a step forward as to how those recommendations will be implemented. We have gone a step forward by drafting even bills where it involves amendment of the Constitution. We have drafted amendment draft bills. Where it involves acts of the National Assembly.
There's one critical aspect of my question. How, to what extent is the APC ready and willing to pull this through? This is a few months to the general election.
Well, let me say that what APC has done in just 2.5 years, no other political party has achieved it before. What APC has done in 2.5 years, PDP didn't do it in 16 years. So it shows sincerity of purpose. It shows a desire and a willingness to do what others have failed to do all these years. So there can be no doubt at all, there can be no question that APC means business. Otherwise, they won't take the trouble of setting us up. There are many governors on the committee, very busy people who spared, left the arduous responsibility of governing their states to serve on this committee because they considered it very important. Many of us are also busy, but we thought that in the interest of our country and in response to the clarion call of our political party, we should come and do this work. And I believe that the party will do the needful. And let me just emphasize that we don't have final say. The party set up this committee to advise, make recommendations and advise the party. We have done that, and it is left now to the party to decide what to do.
Now, Dr. Ame, to what extent do you think these recommendations, I want you to just look at them, don't mean randomly, just choose anyone that you that will assuage the present situation that we have on ground, where there are agitations, there are altercations here and there, hate speech. To what extent will some of these recommendations, if eventually they scale through, will assuage some of these very bad situations that we have?
Critical recommendations of the committee. One is the issue of devolution of power to the states. I think that is very, very central to the problem we have in this country. You know, there is so much control of power in the center, and so our federal system is not working at all. So I think people will be excited that the states will have become the center of activities if this thing is actually implemented. Secondly, the issue of local governments. I lecture comparative federalism in the university, and we conducted, studies in 8 countries, and all those 8 countries are federal countries, starting from US, Germany, Brazil, all of them. None of them is present in a 3-tier system of government except Nigeria. Now the committee has said, look, they want the country to now operate a 2-tier system, and I think that is very commendable. Local government is supposed to be part of the state actually, not a tier of government as it is here in Nigeria now. So the local government system as it is supposed to be part and parcel of the state. Created the state, the state create number like what they want, depending on their resources. So that is one aspect that it's very beautiful.
Okay.
But the one that I'm not too sure is going to work is the issue of merger of states. You see, we're not talking of merging states, because if you merge state, you are not restructuring, you are creating a different structure now. So instead of solving one problem, we're going to create two problems. So the issue of merging states for now, I think it appears to be on the other side. That is one recommendation that I felt no, is we shouldn't even discuss it. There is no need to merge states as it is today in Nigeria.
A member of the committee is here. We will address that. The program is Nigeria Today. We're taking a look at the recommendations of the APC Committee on True Federalism that just made some far-reaching recommendations, which we're taking a look at some of them now. The program will take a short break. My two guests are still in the house.
Coming up on NTA News 24, Nigeria Today, 7:30, Monday to Friday, with exciting anchors on topical issues. Inspirators, a search for those who inspire others. Business 24, a business magazine program. Late edition repackaged. Fresh and exciting programming on NTA News 24. Stay with us.
Welcome back. The program Nigeria Today continues. Prof, before we went on break, Dr. Ame just mentioned something about Dr. Aji about some of those. I mean, one particular thing that he has some reservations about, and that is a merger of states. You are also a professor of law. How do you think this will work? I mean, merging states, when people are clamoring that, okay, even within this existing state, there are some very tiny states, sorry to use that word, you still have groups within them still asking that separate us from these people.
Well, first, as I said, these recommendations came out of the representations, memoranda, views presented to us. And some of the public agitations and comments that you may be familiar with, because there are people who are saying we should return to regional system, to that they felt better when they were a cohesive region. It is good in an exercise such as this, as we said, the party is a listening party. Let's give people the opportunity, if that is what they want, to say, no, we don't want states, we want to exist as a region. But that region will now be the federating. Give them the opportunity to decide what they want to do, instead of shutting them up and not allowing them to express. Because you know, now there are many group of states that have some common understanding. They do a lot of things, and they say that if they are able to pull their resources together, they can achieve more. Okay. We've seen it being done in the northern states. In the south states, they have what they call brace amongst the states. In the southwest, they have it. So if they want to develop all this further, and the people through referendum say this is what they want, then
Prof, this recommendation looks, I mean, is it not just political? Is it political considerations that influence some of these recommendations rather than their workability? Because you keep saying that it is what the people want, it is what the people want. As a professor of law, somebody that has, I mean, you've been a governor, you've been a senator of the Federal Republic, do you think some of this will work the way we're talking about it? They are very radical, they are radical departure from what we have at present.
Well, first, let me say that it's all politics. All these are man is a political animal. And all these issues we are talking about are political issues at the end of the day. As to whether it will work, I have always believed that whatever Nigerians want to work will work. We tried the parliamentary system before, we said it failed. But parliamentary system is working for some people. Okay, if we want it to work here, it will work. The presidential system, people are saying, no, it's not good. Let's revert to the French system. If we want the presidential system to work in Nigeria, it will work. People who are saying, let's go to the French system. If Nigerians don't want the French system to work, it will not work. So it just depends on what the people want and believe will work for them.
Okay.
And let me just mention the issue of devolution.
Yes.
Yes, and the reason for devolution is that when people say they want true federalism, what they are really talking about is that they want the states at federating units to be strong and be able to do things for themselves.
Yes.
So that is why some of these items have been devolved from the federal to the state. And along with the devolution of items from the exclusive legislative list, we will also be devolving the financial resources to enable them carry on this additional responsibilities.
Dr. Ajay, I remember when the Senate, the first time the Senate tried to work on this devolution of power, the bill,
Yes.
it was thrown out.
Yes.
Simply because they alleged that some governors were against it. I mean, they want to take some of their powers. Now, let's look at really not the law now, but the operators of the law, those that will bring the law about, those that can undermine even the promulgation of the law. How do you think at this material time now we are likely to get everybody to be on board to do the right thing concerning this recommendation? To what extent is the people?
Yeah. Well, one aspect of the recommendation which the party spoke about is the issue of referendum, which means Nigerians will have opportunity, to say something at the end of the day when the recommendation comes out.
Our constitution does not have any...
No. The idea is that there will be a constitutional amendment.
Okay.
If you look at what he has said, there are specific areas that there will be constitutional amendments, legislative input, many aspects. Like the police force is an issue of constitutional amendment. Like the change of the structure of the country, the local government is an issue, is a constitutional issue. Like moving something from the exclusive legislation to the state is a constitutional issue. So there will be a general review, in fact, general panel beating of the Nigerian constitution. And it will be taken to the people to now say, yes, we the people of Nigeria have accepted this. Because the present constitution as it is a decree of the military. How many times you amend this constitution is still a decree of the military until it goes back to the Nigerian people through a referendum. This constitution will still remain like a military decree. So if you go by what the panel has recommended, essentially there will be a general change of the Nigerian constitution, and the people will have opportunity to make an input into whatever it is in the constitution. I think it's a very commendable aspect. So in terms of workability, of course, everyone has been agreeing for a restructuring. Restructuring is the solution we are supposed to have as a country for now. And restructuring, as I said, should not be misinterpreted to mean dividing the country. No, it is not balkanization. In fact, that is the solution. The only solution to balkanization is this restructuring.
Okay.
So I think people will be able to, they'll be happy to key into the thing if politics is removed out of it.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, Prof, your final word on the program, even as we go. Nigerians are no doubt happy. I mean, some of these recommendations, though, are quite surprising, but it gladdens the hearts of many, that it's coming out, But I'm sure there are people that are still skeptical out there that will they be able to do some of these things they are talking about. Can you give an assurance to some of those people who are likely to be in that kind of position?
Yes, Mr. Ojelade, I wish I could give this assurance.
Okay.
I personally would like to see that our labor is not in vain. We put in a lot of efforts into this, and it will gladden my heart to see that at the end of the day, Nigeria benefits from these several months of hard work that we put into this exercise. And then, if I may, just dissent a bit from those who say that Nigerian constitution is a decree. I don't agree with that.
Okay.
Because there are three types of laws. There are existing laws which are current, there are obsolete laws, and there are spent laws.
Okay.
The decree which brought our constitution into being is a spent law. It has performed the purpose and the decree is spent. That is why nobody has ever cited decree in the court. When they cite sections of the Constitution, have you ever had anybody citing? Because the decree performed its purpose on the 29th of May 1999, the decree ceased to have effect. It is the Constitution that people carry. It is the Constitution that people cite in court. The decree which brought it into being is spent and dead.
Okay. I must thank you, gentlemen. I know you have to still have some there.
Yes, that's the difference between you and him now.
Okay.
Yes, because as far as you are concerned, this particular is a military decree.
Because we cannot say we did not.
Yeah, because the Nigerian people did not make input into this constitution.
You can say this democracy is a military democracy.
No.
I'm sure we are just going to have time one day to come back and trash some of these issues.
Yeah, okay, it's a pleasure.
I must thank you, Professor Sarimi Osumbo. You're a member of the committee on restructuring of the APC that just made these far-reaching recommendations. We wish you the very best.
Thank you very much.
And share your hope and optimism that something good will come out of it. And then I thank you, Dr. Philip Ajay from the Nasarawa State University. Thanks for all that you have said on the program.
Thank you very much.
Wish you well in all that you do.
Thank you very much.
Well, this is where we call it a date on the program Nigeria Today. We'll be back on Monday. Thank you for joining us. Good night.